Cue intro music. Beady, 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 yeah, that's different from last time too, right? I just make up songs as I go.
Yo, that's
Right?
what we thought. It's gonna be different every time. Every time we have an intro.
All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wild African Dogs Podcast, a series of awesome discussions from the homies from a variety of creative backgrounds. My name is Moish Ham, aka Moist Ham, Moisture, Moesha, Mo Money, Mo Boogie. Today's guest is a uber talented artist who graduated from Cal State Fullerton, is well known for creating comics, drawing cute girls, wielding giant weapons, creator of the recently released book called Spare Time, and my partner of this podcast, Wild African Dogs, and lover of smooth jams. Josh, everybody welcome Josh.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah. Josh and I work together promoting our work in Comic-Con related conventions and will soon launch our own publishing company called Wild African Dogs. Welcome, Josh. Yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
You know how we do. We chilling.
We big chilling. I'm here eating my Mexican food, and Josh just got back from tennis. And yeah, yeah. You said that you play tennis way back with the pops.
Yeah.
Was he breaking them ankles too? While you guys play, was he marking you
Okay, so it started off. He was marking me. He was tapping that ass. You know what I'm
today
saying?
or all the time? Like,
He was mostly teaching me so he could have somebody to play with.
uh-huh.
So eventually the student became the master.
So you be molly-whopping him now?
Yeah. But my dad is a big dude. My dad's like 300 something pounds and 6 feet tall.
Oh shit! Moving
So
like that in the tennis court? That's fucking hard.
I mean, not he wasn't. How do I put this? He had knees back then, kinda. So like he could make a break for stuff, but for the most part, he's very good at controlling where to place the ball. So I was the one running 9 times out of 10.
Mm,
But it got bad after
damn.
like I think like 2 or 3 years in, something like that. Not because of tennis. Well, it actually wasn't because of tennis. Because my dad is fucking huge.
Oh,
Like just you should not have that much weight on your
yeah,
knees at all.
yeah. Especially with
Uh,
the age.
yeah, so that stuff kind of took its toll on him. I mean, it was fine while we were playing, I think, because the exercise helped him out. But when we stopped, it got real bad, and then
Oh
we
my
just
God,
couldn't. Yeah, we couldn't really like get him back on the tennis court no more.
dude. Now that I'm in my 30s, I think about making sure I keep up with my health because it's only gonna get harder from here with age. So that's something to look forward to.
Hey,
Um,
yo, I know y'all didn't come here for to get this health talk, but here we
health
go.
talk, health talk. You know, us artists, we all are slouched over our computers, got that shrimp back going on, and on top of that, our knees. Like now, every time I get up, my knees will pop,
Ooh,
and it doesn't hurt. It's just
you just
like,
hear it and you're like,
yeah, it
woo,
goes
ooh,
like it
baby.
just released some air, and I went, "What the fuck is happening, dude? This happened. This started happening last year,
Well,
and
you
Jesus
gotta
Christ,
crack them every now and again too, man.
how do you crack your knees? It's
I mean,
so crazy.
I like bend them in. It's weird to explain, but
Oh,
I think something might actually be wrong with me because I do that. I can crack my ankles. I can crack my back. I can crack my shoulders. Kind of like it's
oh
I'm
damn.
crack a lacking.
Crack a lot, and um, so yeah. Well, last time we recorded this previously, and for whatever reason, the thing crashed. So we're kind of redoing this. So Josh, Jackson, me, and Josh go back since SMC, just like 2011.
I want to say it has to be like like 2009 ish. I think like we knew of each other's existence, but we
Oh, right.
hadn't like hung out or anything like that.
Yeah. I said this to you before. but you always had the freshest fits, had the freshest cut, and the hottest earrings, and the good looks. And I never knew you knew how to draw like that until I saw your sketchbook. And I was like, holy shit, your inspiration reminds me a lot of old school, like 90s aesthetic stuff. And we talked about this before, but that one artist, Tetsuya
Katsuya Terada.
Katsuya, Tonkatsuya Tarada, is that it? Tatsuya Karada?
Yeah,
Tarada.
Katsuya Terada.
I'm butchering people's names. Tatsuya, Ka- hold up, Katsuya Tarada.
Yeah,
There we go.
that's the homie right there.
Yeah, you gave me. I remember when I used to host like little get-togethers at my place, playing video games and whatnot, and you always had a sketchbook. And then one day you had me give you my hard drive so you can upload all the dope ass art, and including in that list was Katsuya Terada. And I remember seeing his work when I was younger, but after you showed me that, I was like, oh shit, I see where Josh's inspiration comes from. All of this stuff. You guys got, not gonna lie, you guys do carry some similarities, like I noticed. Would you say that he is a big inspiration in your journey?
Yeah, which
Really?
is yeah, it's kind of it's strange because like I feel like as an American man, you're supposed to have American influences, but for the most part, I think this is just because like the time that we grew up in, a lot of my influences are just straight up Japanese, dude.
Yep.
Not that it's like bad or anything like that, but for the hottest minutes, I was like super into Akihiko Yoshida, who was designing for like Final Fantasy 14 and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
And you can still see how the way that he approaches like the way he does like his lines and things like that, or like the shading and stuff in
Right.
my pencil stuff. Like it's not as obvious anymore because he doesn't do that kind of work as much or as often, I
Mm.
should say. Because it
Hmm.
is very like the way that you do have to approach that stuff is very labor intensive, and it's like a whole lot of pencil work, and he's just busy, so he doesn't operate that way anymore.
Right.
Which I personally I think is a little bit sad because I really like those drawings, but at the same time though, when he does do it, you like, ooh, ooh, baby,
You feel it.
please, won't you give me a little bit more of that? Come on, share
It
now.
it sounds like to me that, is it just time and efficiency and age? That's why he doesn't do that anymore? Is
Yeah.
that what it is?
I think also like when you change job paths, like when you are a concept artist, you're constantly drawing. But when you have to be the director, like the art lead on things, like you tend to have a lot less time to do that, and instead you're sort of like explaining your vision to somebody else, and then you have to
Yeah.
have them follow through. So I think he's doing a lot more of that these days, and there's just a lot less drawing in his life.
He is the
But
brains and his minions are
are his
the
arms?
pencils. Yeah, are his arms. Like the a lot of the old influences that I took from was like more the Asian stuff, or primarily Japanese, like Furikuri, Evangelion, um, Naruto, Dragon Ball, all that stuff. And
Same.
I think oh god, what was that thing? Like we mentioned this before, how it was a time during the early 2000s when East and West, so like West Coast artists,
Oh yeah, we're talking about that hip
yeah,
hop
pop
Japanese
that.
crossover.
Yup, we had the crossover of Samurai Champloo, Afro Samurai. Something about it, man. We just connected. It was hip hop, and that whole aesthetic of like Bushido code and the warrior's wave, I think spoke to a lot of black people. I don't know what it is. It's just sick. Like,
Like
eh,
that and Dragon Ball. Like dog,
yeah,
we gotta be like every nigga loves Dragon Ball, and I don't know why that is.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like
Like even
the,
today, you will catch a nigga watching Dragon Ball before any other fucking anime.
yup, he'll be 40, just fucking vibing to Dragon Ball. And a part of that influence, I think a lot of it has to do with like our upbringing,
Hmm.
um, just having people around you that aren't very supportive of what you like, and you don't really get a lot of love, and people struggle with shit, and so you look at people like Goku, and you go, "Holy crap, this man is going through the worst," and despite it all, he's coming out on top. Um,
That's my dude. That's my
yeah,
dude.
and and niggas love fights, man.
Yo,
Like
that
fades, like all that shit is hype as hell.
you were not
But
lying.
um,
There's
yeah,
a reason why World Star was popular as fuck.
straight wildin'. People are straight wildin'.
Fights
But
with dog. You remember that? That was a wild time to be alive. Fights would start and people would start yelling "Wild World Star."
dude, people would just record it just for content. They don't even help. They just go, shit.
Yo, World Star.
Yeah, they just go, oh shit. But yeah, like during that time, I remember Toonami was huge, and I always missed it because it ended at like 6 p.m. Was it?
Yeah, either 6:30, something like that. Like,
I
it
always just
was
missed it.
it was meant for like when you get off of school, it's usually like 3:30 or so. So like it would start at 4, which meant that
Right,
you had like 30 minutes or so or whatever for like the block to start. So like you finish your homework, you do all the stuff, and then you sit down and you watch Toonami. Like that
right.
used to be the thing to do. But like
Yeah,
if you had after school sports or anything like that, like you were just SOL.
yeah. It was like it was so hyped to see all those animes because we didn't have YouTube back then. We had internet and file sharing services, but for the most part, we can only catch these shows on TV. So anytime I saw like the first time I saw Furikuri, that shit was like, oh my god, what is
What
this
is
anime?
this?
Yeah, or like
Yo, you know what's even crazier about that too is that it aired in 2 seasons, so it's only
oh
six
my god,
episodes, mind you, right? So
yeah,
they I don't think that they quite got the either the rights or maybe it was being translated at the time and being localized, but for the
yep.
longest time they only had like the first 3 episodes, I think, and then the next three came out like way later. They're like, oh, new episodes of
Oh,
Furikuri, right? And it's like you're thinking like, oh man, this is a long show, right? It's not. It's 6 episodes.
yeah, yeah. It felt long because I had to wait. Um, gosh, that anime changed me. And like, what is that one? Not Vampire Hunter, like Ninja Scroll. I remember I torrented like an odd file of from LimeWire. I got like a Ninja Scroll thing, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" Anime was so obscure to me at the time, and I remember the first time I saw the Animatrix. That
Oh, everybody lost their shit.
yo, that was like, oh, this takes me back because back then, like I said, you couldn't find this shit easily. You just had to kind of tune in by accident, and then you fell into it. Now there's like an overabundance of content of so many different genres. But back
Yeah,
then,
that's
it's like,
true.
yeah, it was so crazy.
Speaking
But
of that, you know what's
mhm,
even crazier though? Like you brought up the Animatrix, and this is probably like the most interesting. Like you used to actually see trends with anime specifically, or like new like quote unquote indie animation styles and stuff like that. Because
right, yeah,
when that came out, Takeshi Koike had a short about this runner, and that shit is
hmm
dank. Is like you look at it and it looks dank as hell, but
hmm
it's got all these like black fills and shit in it, and like for the hottest of minutes
yeah,
on the internet, like you would just like look at stuff and it would be dark fills. Like people were going
yeah,
crazy for stuff like that.
dude, it was yeah. I think it was called World Record. The episode was called World Record. Those who don't know, and every every episode of that animation or that series was so unique because they were all made by different studios or artists, and that was amazing to me. I
We
think
just
that
don't
was
get shit. We don't get shit like that no more. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, we have what they did the Star Wars thing. What's it called? Star Wars
I don't,
Destinies or something.
I don't know, but I haven't even looked at it, unfortunately.
Star Wars. It was some name, some eclectic name. Star Wars, Euphoria, Star
So
Wars,
who's Euphoria?
Star Wars Destinies. It has to be called Destinies, but I mean they had stuff like that coming out, but I don't know. I wasn't as excited about it because maybe like the feeling of getting new content now doesn't feel as exciting until I watch it, and
Mm.
maybe it's because it's like an oversaturation.
Yeah, there's an overabundance of like just anime in general. I mean, not that that's a bad thing. I'm glad that it's a lot more popular,
Yeah,
but because of that, I feel like we're also getting a lot more of the garbage that used to be filtered out.
yeah,
Like back when we were kids, like because that stuff was so rare, and the licensing stuff was so expensive, people really did have to choose what got shown and what didn't. So we got curated anime in the
hmm
90s,
yeah.
90s, early 2000s, and now it's just like, hey, yo, you want this? You want this
That is
Doki
so true.
Doki Cure shit? You want that? All right, we'll translate it for you, bro. You gonna
That
pay
is
for it?
so
All
true.
right, yeah, hell yeah, bro.
Yeah, like that just makes more sense because that was curated back then. It was so tailored. So whoever introduced us to all that good shit had impeccable taste. Because that was godlike, dude. Big O,
Oh yeah,
remember
dog.
Big O?
The art direction in Big O.
Sheesh.
I still be dog. I still every once in a while I still be going back and watching that shit.
Yeah,
Big O Showtime, and it was so different from all the rest of the stuff too.
yeah.
I hella thought it was an American production
I
for
thought
the
so
longest
too.
time.
Same. I was like, yo, it reminds me of Batman because he had a butler and everything.
Yeah, it was Batman, but anime.
Batman robot anime. But so your earlier influences, you had some of your Eastern Japanese influences. So like what else was your biggest influence growing up with doing art?
I think it was like growing up with art. I think it was mostly anime, if I'm being honest. Because it like being black, and we about to go into some stereotypes for a little bit, but being black and not really having access to like bookstores and things like that was kind of like was very common actually. So
Yeah.
I didn't get into comics until like way later in my life when I was going to the white neighborhoods and was like, oh shit, y'all sell books.
Yeah.
Let
Yeah.
me get at these mangos. And so
Yeah.
then I straight up went into manga and missed like American comics missed me with that bullshit. But I did go back and get into it because one of my coworkers was super into comics, but
Mm.
he wasn't into art. So I read a lot of superhero stuff with kind of crap art, but really good storytelling. And I think that kind of tempered my taste for storytelling, like where stories could actually go. And he was really good about that too. Actually, like a lot of the stuff that he would read, if it didn't have an interesting twist, that man was out.
Like what were a few just in general that comes to mind when it comes to like your earlier influences?
Like artist wise, or
Or like the comic book storytelling or maybe even
ah,
like style,
okay.
but
I for me, I think it was like Mark Millar's like kind of earlier work, which is that says a lot because that we're talking about the guy who changed how the Avengers were written afterward. Like the Ultimates is basically how the Avengers work now, kind of thing. I
I
think
didn't know that.
he was kind of like the first person to be like, "Yo, Steve Rogers would probably actually just kind of be a little bit of a dick." Like, yeah,
Interesting.
he's America's golden boy, but that boy is like stuck in the 40s. Like that man is an asshole. Like by today's standards, he's a dick. And he was like the first person to write him like that, which I think is very interesting because that's true. He's been frozen for 40 years. Like America didn't, and I think that that's like a good point too. America didn't just change overnight. There's a
Yeah.
lot of shit that like we bury down. We literally bury down to the side and be like, yo, we just don't talk about this.
Yeah.
But when you take a superhero who's supposed to stand for America, but he came out in the 1940s, that nigga is still carrying that shit with him, whether you like it or not. And Mark Millar was the first person to put that at like the forefront. And so that cat is, yes, he does fight for truth, justice, and the American way, but he is not nice about it. Like he is
Yeah.
not like that. That was a guy who is not okay with like women being in leadership positions and things like that, and it
Mm.
caused like grief in between like team members and stuff. So he's very interesting to read. That was
Mm.
also the first time that Tony Stark had a drinking problem.
Mm.
Like
So he really like humanized these characters by
by
their
basically just giving
experiences.
them flaws, yeah.
Yeah.
By giving them these hefty flaws. It wasn't like, oh man, we can just kind of write this off. Yeah, yeah, Steve's a little bit of a dick, but he's a super soldier. He'll get the job done. It was like, no, no, dude.
Yeah, I didn't know this, but he also wrote Wanted. I'm
Yeah, no,
looking at
he
this
did,
here.
dog.
He
We
did
love that
Kick-Ass
movie
too.
too.
I'm looking at this here. He wrote Kick-Ass. Right? Yeah, he did Kick-Ass, Wanted. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's been like kind of the writer for a lot of the zeitgeist for like now kind of thing.
Right.
Um, because like I don't think people really cared about characterization as much as he did, and that's what made him an interesting writer. Because you
Yeah.
can't just these things don't exist in a vacuum, and they do relate and correlate to like stuff that happens now. Like
Yeah.
I know for a fact that there's a lot of times where we'll be sitting there and be like, well, why is this like this? But
Mhm.
if you look at the society from that time, especially with like movies and things like that, like if you look at like slasher films and things of that nature, they are products of their time.
Yeah.
Because there's general fear with a lot of things. But in the case of slashers, it was like women's bodies. And
Mm.
you can't make that stuff up, and you cannot like me and you, like because of the people that we are today, we could not write those things the way that they would have been presented back then.
No. No, it would have to be a whole interview process where we would have to talk to people who was there, and you would have to be so meticulous about it because you can get the subtle details wrong.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
And
he
I
even
think
wrote wait, go
he
ahead. What do you say?
I was gonna say that's what kind of makes like things a little bit difficult. Not because like people are bad, but because there are certain things that were going on in a culture during a specific time that caused specific fears, which
Oh,
meant that those people were expressing those things in their media at
yeah.
any given time.
Yeah. Yeah. He wrote Civil War and Logan. He wrote Old Man Logan. I'm looking at this here.
Dog,
Holy shit.
he did a lot of shit. Um,
Civil War. I think
he,
Civil War makes sense.
People give him a lot of shit though, just because of the kind of writer that he is. Like I think now he's like more on his high horse
Uh-huh.
than when he started. Cause like he also did like Kingsman, and I love that shit. But sometimes I'm like, bro, just chill.
Kingsman, the movie?
Yeah,
Dude, this guy's a legend. I had no idea. This is yeah, he wrote Civil War, Old Man Logan, Avengers the movie. Major inspiration. Okay, okay. Yeah. So based on that, like, do you carry a lot of that stuff over to your works? Because I know you were first doing your personal comics, which were more like food for thought type things on your
hmm
Instagram page.
hmm
And like a lot of the stuff that you would write would be just thoughts and what you saw, like in your perceptive life, like whatever you would see and how you process it. And you always try to give a dilemma. You go like, oh, is this like this or is it always like that? Like I always
ah
like
that
that split. Like you don't just have a straightforward answer when it comes to your punchline in the comics. You kind of like leave it up for like, well, that's an interesting thought.
yeah
Just
I think
notice.
I think that that's just me. That's actually just how my brain works.
Mm,
Especially because like when you think about it, like you try to be kind in your day-to-day life, but sometimes kindness brings on like unexpected problems. Like you want to treat everybody a certain way, but you realize like at the end of the day, like you just can't.
yeah.
Not because like you're a terrible person, but because that person chooses to not realize or accept the mistakes that they've made, right?
Mm,
And so you don't want to do that to them, but you might have to do that to them, or you
mm,
might have to like stop being that person's friend or stop being that person's support kind of thing.
yeah.
That I think that a lot of the way that I wrote those comics in particular are just the way that I process things.
Mm, mm, mm.
So I think a lot of that is just me.
Yeah, I can tell you, like the way you write, I can tell that you spend a lot of time like in this, let's say, like just isolated, and then you're just processing everything, like all the shit that's going on, but in a very kind way. Like your stuff is never bitter. It's always like it's always lighthearted too. And yeah,
Man,
the
I try not to be, because
yeah,
it's too much going on in the world.
yeah, you can't stress yourself out.
Yeah, it's like
And
just be out here trying to be nice.
yeah, and was this this was during or before you went to Fullerton? Like when you were writing this stuff?
It's actually during. It was like my first 2 years kind of thing. I think it was actually, yeah, it was my first 2 years at Fullerton for the most part.
Oh, yeah, you were pumping those out like hotcakes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
So
dope.
one of my teachers was like, "Yeah, you just gotta if you're gonna do comics, you just gotta do comics." And I was like, "Okay." So like, what do I do? And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, do I write this long, thought out story? Like, do I have a narrative? And he's like, "Nah, man, you just write strips." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you just write strips." I was like, "Okay." So I started writing strips, and it's funny because the ones that are up now are the later ones. The ones that are still available for people to read anyway. Those are on my website, by the way.
Right.
If you go there, it's like it's a lot of later. I gotta post the older ones, but the older ones are like me actually running into problems and being
Uh,
like, "Oh man, damn, I wish it didn't have to be like this, but it be like this."
yeah.
Because there was one in particular that I was very like nervous about because my Instagram is connected to my was connected to Tinder at the time, and the whole dilemma was like me shitting at work. Because I used to work with a bunch of ladies. So anytime somebody came to the bathroom, it was, 9 times out of 10, it was probably going to be another lady. So it was like, oh, damn, like my bad. Like, like I know we all got to poop, but like, I don't want you walking into that. You feel me?
Just drop a deuce. Just drop a hot one and be like, no, you don't need an air freshener. It's all fresh enough for you, miss.
Yeah, for like a hot minute, like we didn't have, like, because the school didn't buy air fresheners for like the staff bathroom. So
Yeah.
sometimes you would just walk in after somebody and you would just catch it.
Sheesh. God damn. Wait, so
Yeah. So
you posted that based on your experience from school, like having to drop a deuce?
no, that was work. But it was one of those things where like I would pick something that happened like that week and then
Yeah,
make fun of it or
yeah,
be like, "Ooh, what's going on?" But as I was like going to school and stuff like that, because I was alone a lot of the time for like those first 2 years, it turned
yeah.
into me ruminating about stuff. So like
Mm,
I usually do have a lot of time to think because I was commuting, so I would be early for things. So there's a lot of time where I'm just kind of sitting around, and it was before I had really made friends, so it wasn't like I was hanging out with people.
yeah, you always had a when I first met you, you always carried around a sketchbook and you were always drawing nonstop, even during conversation. Dude, even during conversations at SMC, we would all be in a circle talking about like, yeah, man, that game is sick, and we're all getting hype. And then here you are standing and sketching at the same time. And I never thought anything of it. I was just like, damn, look at this studious fool. This fool's studious as hell. And I see that all the time now. You still do this. You still have this ingrained into you to this day. Like whether we're playing board games or you're waiting for your turn to play a game or whatnot, like you have that sketchbook in hand. And here's the thing. I've always like I'm not the type of person where if I'm out in a public space, I can't really draw because I'm so like if I'm with people, like I just want to talk to people.
Hmm.
So this whole idea of like when people meet up for like like sketch meetups and stuff, I thought it was dope, but I find it very difficult
Hmm.
to do that because while I'm drawing, I'm like, so yeah, so she, that bitch like cut me off. Like I'll start talking, right? But for
Uh-huh.
you, you've always carried that. Like you always like maintain that idea of this is what I do. Like you don't even think twice, bro. You always just have a fucking sketchbook in hand, and I thought that was incredible. But like most people, that's like option number two. We have to think. I think most people at sketchbooks, we have to go. All right, I'm sketching now. But for you, it's just your hand just moves to the cookie jar, and then your other hand goes to the pencil, and you're drawing. Like, the hell's going on here?
I mean, you kind of right. I'm like, if we got downtime, bro, we got drawing, we got time to draw.
I'll
Like
never
you,
forget when we were playing a board game, and it was free for all. Like, it was cutthroat. We're all trying to attack each other. It was Dice Masters, right? We were playing Dice Masters, and like Jerome, our friend Jerome, he's got like his team of his like ultimate badasses, and he's trying to take everybody down. Everyone's like just tense. The room is tense, and then here you are, so like just sketching, just waiting for your turn. Dude. But yeah, yeah, you always carried that. And but yeah, so going from your comics, and then before you went to Fullerton, you went to Portland,
yeah, for a
right?
year.
Yeah, and I remember you mentioned that you wanted to go there because of it was mostly for like opportunity, like to get the degree, right?
Yeah, I wanted to graduate from an art college because I thought back then that that actually meant something. It still doesn't mean really too much, but
Yeah,
it the thing about going to an art college is that it is really nice to be surrounded by people who also want to do the same thing as you and also just as bad as you.
yeah,
But the problem is that unfortunately, you kind of don't really like you don't need that kind of specialized training really anymore because you can
yeah.
find a lot of that stuff on the internet these days. Uh, but it shouldn't. If you listen to this podcast and you're like, man, I wonder if I should go to art school. You should. If that's what you want to do, you should do it because it is honestly worth it. You will meet a whole lot of cool people who also are probably into the same thing as you, and that means that you will now have a support circle, which is great because art is fucking hard, and everybody struggles with the exact same thing, which is how do I be social and also be an artist? Um,
What is your overall opinion on the the environment now for artists in terms of going to school or not going to school?
you can hella depending on the kind of person you are, you can hella get away with not going to school now. Because it didn't matter in the first place. What mattered was that you were good and that you can draw in a way that could appeal to a lot of people.
Right.
But that the internet sort of fucked everything up for a lot of not for everybody, but mostly for art colleges.
Yeah.
Because there is a fuck ton more information that is available to you that is easily accessible. There are now professionals who are working in the fields that you want to work in who are teaching things.
Yeah.
That was just it was just simply not the case like 10 here's the thing, and this is what I find is really crazy. It was not the case like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Before you
solid
had to meet people, like you had to have an agent. You had to. There wasn't much of a social media thing.
At
Um,
solid 10 years ago, if you wanted to go to art school to be an artist, that was that was your best bet because you would be surrounded by people who want to do the same thing you were. You were being taught by people who were most likely working. If they weren't still working in the field, they had worked in the field for a number of years.
yeah.
And that was the only way that you could do that. But because of the internet, thank God for the internet, you really don't have to. Like,
Yeah.
but if you really feel like that sort of like society, not societal pressure, but like peer pressure and things like that to drive you forward, then yeah, no, you should by all means still go. The thing is though, is this still really expensive, and it's the costs are only going up, which is the
Yeah.
unfortunate part. So if you think that is a worthy investment of your time, you definitely should. But it's definitely strange on the West Coast versus the East Coast. I talked to my friend about this, and
Like
it
in what
turned
way? Like,
because like the our coast, the West Coast is more conceptual. Like there's a whole lot more fine art stuff on this side of the state,
uh-huh.
the nation.
Yeah.
Versus the East Coast will actually teach you exactly what you. They'll teach you all the fucking fundamentals, like bar none, right? But that is not the case here. Like I don't know if you remember like your basic drawing class at SMC, but it was not shit.
Well, yeah, from my experience, like I remember I went to New York, and I was doing a presentation at, oh God, I forgot what art school it was. I met some really cool people there, but they were more focused on it was more graphic design, and actually a little bit more fine arty than I thought it was.
Ooh,
Where here is more entertainment entertainment design,
Hmm.
right? Like I see more of that here along with fine art, but um I don't know what it's like in the other states in the East Coast. So that's probably like what you're referring to, right? Like the other states in the East Coast,
Yeah,
would you say have more of that
I want to.
fundamental?
Yeah, because I think that they want you to be able to make, um, quote unquote, beautiful images before you do anything else, and
Uh,
that's not bad. It can be limiting sometimes depending on
yeah,
your teacher's viewpoint. Because I think like a lot of the time that's where you get that my teachers don't like it when I draw anime kind of shit, and that still happens. Like that honestly still happens to people. Um, but at the same time, if you learn how to draw solid fundamentally and it's that shit is solid, you can go wherever the fuck you want to after that. Like you might be pissed while you're doing it because you're like, damn, why is this guy stifling my creativity?
mm.
But there are a lot of people who draw anime who can't really draw anything else.
Well, how do you? So there's, I mean, that's a big thing that I ran into that in art school is that a lot of students had a particular style, and the teachers don't really budge towards it. If anything, they kind of dismiss it, like especially anime.
Hmm.
So what's your thoughts on that? Like now, do you feel like that's warranted? Do you think the
Uh,
students should lean more towards that or kind of go back to fundamentals?
I think everybody can deal with learning some fundamental stuff because like there are things and ways to think about drawing that I don't think that I necessarily would have approached if I didn't seek that out. Um, and that's hard to verbalize because art is, well, in this case drawing is very visual, but learning how to turn things in space is still very fucking hard. And if you don't have the fundamental ability to understand what it is that you are drawing
Right.
from any angle, I think you're doing yourself a disservice because you
That is
don't
very true.
actually understand what you are doing.
That is very
um,
true. Very, very true.
so the messed up part is they are kind of right, but they are also kind of wrong.
Yeah, there's truth to as to them saying like, "Oh, I think you got to go back and not do that
Yeah.
anime thing." Um,
And to be fair, I don't think that it should be like that much of a problem. Like the whole reason why I draw the way that I do is because I really wanted to learn how things worked. And
right.
you don't actually get to develop your style until you understand what it is that you are drawing. Like I love people, but for the life of me, I cannot
Exactly.
draw the top of the rib cage, for example. Right? That shit that shit gives me so much fucking work. But because I don't understand it, I keep practicing at it. I get it so where it looks okay, but I know that I can't do that properly. And so because of that, my drawings from specific angles don't look as solid as they could be. And that's a problem that I am working on constantly at this point in my life.
Mm. Yeah,
Right?
I've seen like your style of work. I can tell that you have an understanding of anatomy. Like you simplify your forms, but I can tell like you understand form, how people stand or pose, whether something makes sense. And you
Mhm.
took that from your fundamentals and then you've put your own style into it, like that anime aesthetic type style. And it feels better that way too, right? Like when you
Yeah.
just have basic understanding and then you apply your own style on top of it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
noticed that about like throughout the whole time I've known you, you've always had solid fundamentals.
Don't feel like I got solid fundamentals, dog. I be trying though.
It's a never ending doubt. It'll never stop
Yeah,
until you're,
I don't think it'll ever go away until I'm like on my deathbed. You know what? I made some pretty good drawings.
yeah. Um, how do you deal with being consistent, right? Because a lot of artists, this is a field that is very introverted. We talk about this a lot. Like it is the most introverted, extroverted field because you're alone for the most part in your own head, in your own vices, your own distractions and whatnot, and you have to create something. Very easy to have self-doubt when there's so many people who's better than you. And there are days where you're just in a rut, you're not feeling creative. Maybe you don't want to do this, but then you come back the next week. So how do you stay consistent from your experience? Because you were always drawing. right? A lot of people don't. Like they'll just take days off for reasons.
I mean, I here's the thing. I take days off too. It's just when I play video games, that is I think that is a sweet release. It's between video games and like watching TV shows and stuff like that. That is for me personally, that is a sweet release when I'm feeling good. Um, or bad, actually. To tell you the truth. A lot
Hmm.
of the times, whenever I doubt myself, I realize that I have to actually stop drawing, because what is happening is I'm creating a negative feedback loop. I'm drawing, I'm not liking the drawing,
Right.
and then I feel like I got to make the thing better, and then I'm like, damn, I'm not that great. How the fuck, how am I supposed to eat like this,
Yeah.
right? So you keep doing that shit and you're gonna burn yourself out because you're telling like your body, your brain mostly is telling you that you need to take a break and then come back to it. And it doesn't matter what the fuck you do. Like for a hot minute, I was like, you know what? Let me just read a book. I'm gonna. I feel
Right.
bad right now. Let me just read a damn book.
Yeah.
That'll take me out of it. Those words, that language, that'll
That language, them letters,
that'll
man.
that'll snap me up out of this shit real quick,
That's
right?
them
Because you
periods. Yeah.
yeah, because you have to switch your entire mindset in order to read a book. Comics is like a whole lot less. Like comics is one of those things where like you could sit there and kind of compare yourself as an artist to the person who's drawing and stuff. But
Mm.
words and letters, my nigga, you have to imagine that shit. And so it takes your brain away from being visual to trying to understand the things that are written so you can comprehend them and have a nice time reading the book.
Right.
And that is the most immediate thing that has ever helped me. The other thing though is like just playing video games, like
Yeah.
doing the things that you enjoy in life, um, helps take the stress out. The problem with that sometimes though, you just be like, I don't fucking want to draw. I'm gonna sit here and play Elden Ring for like 12 hours. But that's not necessarily a bad thing either, depending on the type of person you are. Because me, I love lore, right? Elden Ring, tons of lore. Me and my friend Omar, we just got done talking about like all the crazy politics and shit, like all the crazy like, oh man, I wonder if this is true, right? That kind
Mm.
of stuff, and that will also just take you out of like having to feel like you have to draw all the time.
Ah.
So you have to do things that aren't art. My mentor at SMC gave me rest in peace, Ron. But he gave me the best advice of my motherfucking life. He said, "You got to get a life,"
Mm.
and it's true. Like you really do. To be an artist is to live a life worth living. Because we're
That's very
like
true.
we're probably the one subset of people who actually get to like do a thing that kind of comes from nothing, um, and we get paid for it. Like this is a life, right? It's a life worth
Yeah.
living. So you got to make like the best out of it. And sometimes it might be a little scary because you'd be broke half the time because you're like, damn, I got to get these submissions done. But
Yeah.
you have to take those times to sort of do the stuff that you would actually want to enjoy to do. And that's why everybody who makes things is not the same because everybody lives a different life. Like, I used to think that it was like our upbringing kind of thing, but no, it's actually just like the way you view how you live your life
Right.
changes your art style. If you can change the way you think about things, you can change the way that you draw.
That is, yeah, that's very true. You man, Ron, is that his name? Ron?
Yeah, Ron Davis.
You guys are both speaking church right now. That's church shit right there, man. Dude. Yeah, it's because as artists, when especially when you start to take it seriously, you think academically. Like
Hmm.
I remember when I first started this, I thought, okay, every day is like training day. It's I lift weights, I do this many exercises, I study this and that, and I become like a robot and I get stiff because I'm so afraid of making mistakes. And I stopped kind of like going out to do stuff because all I did was just art.
Hmm.
But like you were saying, when you have different experiences, you get a whole new perspective and understanding of things that will influence your art. And it makes more sense now as I get older that art is simply a tool. It's a language that is expressed from the person's experiences. So yeah, Ron is absolutely right, man. It's gotta have a
Except,
life. You gotta
bro,
have a
me
life.
when he said that, I think I was like 21, right? And I'm like, nah, man, you jiving again. Because also, this person, Ron Davis, spoke in fucking riddles. I don't know how this man did this, but
It's hilarious.
for every answer, that man asked a question of me. Like anytime I was like on the right path, it wasn't like, oh man, I got this. Ha, yeah, Ron, I understand what you're saying. That nigga would throw me another fucking every fucking time. He'd throw me
Riddle me
another
this, Josh.
curveball. No, bro, on some real shit. And it'd be like, I'm just sitting there asking questions the entire time. I'm like, God damn. Like I would go home with headaches, bro.
Oh my you. You're like, so Ron, how do you shade that? How do you shade it like that? He'll say,
With the colors of your life. And I'm like, wait, what?
with the
And
colors of your life. Is it
he's
shading? Are you shading it? Or
or
is it
is it
shading
shading
you?
you? And
Riddle
you're
me this.
and you're sitting there like, mm, that does not help me at this moment. And then like five years later, you're sitting there going, he was right. I shaded this with the
That
colors of
makes
my life.
that
Like
was right.
everything around me is like in these same hues that I used in my artwork. And you're like, God damn it, Ron.
It's shading me. Holy shit. Am I experiencing life? Am I life? Holy shit. I'm having an epiphany right now. No, I'm serious right now. And I'm not, this isn't a riddle or anything. I'm just thinking right now. I'm like, holy shit, oh my God.
Yeah, no, dude. So that shit used to happen to me on a regular basis from like the time that I got into the art department, met that dude, went through the art mentor pro. So about 3 years, 3 years of my life was basically sitting there asking questions about my own goddamn existence, and I was really
Wow.
sitting there pondering.
Wow.
And I do think that I ended up being a better artist for it, but I also think that those seeds took a long while because I'm sitting there like as an illustrator, right? And most of the stuff that he's saying, like it really does truly apply to like more to fine artists than anything.
Mm,
Mostly because a lot of the times when you do fine art and stuff like that, it's usually like a problem or something that you're trying to express that is extremely close to you, and you have to get that out, right? Not that like it's gonna make you any money or anything like that, but like
yeah.
it's something that you feel the need to show and tell everyone else around you. And when you get to that point of trying to tell those things, but those things are not written down, it becomes very hard to tell somebody that same thing without saying any words.
Yeah.
All right. So I think like the best fine art is something that you can look at and go, I know exactly what that guy was trying to do. But
Yeah.
a lot of it, unfortunately, does not do that. Which is why a lot of people have a bone to pick with fine art and contemporary stuff for the most part. But at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff it really is just visual ideas being put into physical form, which I do think is super cool. Like if anybody's out there listening to this and you from the fine art side, just know I appreciate you, but you got to make your work better. And by better, I mean you
And then
have to communicate.
yeah, that's exactly, dude, I've been saying this for years, man. Art is all about communication. You can make a painting that's a chaotic painting, but if that's what you're trying to communicate, you've succeeded. So what you're saying about like when people use words to express certain things, I'm terrible with words at times when it comes to like storytelling.
Hmm.
So the only way I feel that suits my tools to express is to like paint it and hope that somebody will understand
Hmm.
through emotion. So that's so true, man.
It took me a long time to kind of come to terms with the fact that I probably would do very well as a fine artist. I really don't vibe with those people like 9 times out of 10. Like don't
A
get me
lot of
wrong,
them.
when
Hmm.
I find them, when I find the ones that I vibe with, I fucking love them. Like they're homies forever. But there are so many people who are all about the bullshit, and it's
Dude,
amazing.
holy shit. Oh my God. People have no idea. Like there's you always have that one person who thinks they're God's gift to the world. And then you have other people who just bullshit their work. Like they don't put in the time and they just do it just to
Just to
I don't
do
know
it.
what. And I'm like, what the
They
hell?
do it just to do it because it is a thing to do. Which I honestly think is crazy because sometimes those people are like the best at both one expressing how they did the thing, but also they're really good at making sure that the thing is also communicating, which I don't get. I'm like, yo, you don't have to bullshit. Just be yourself. You are
Yeah.
already really good at this.
Yeah.
That shit makes me sad too. I had a guy in my graphic one of my graphic design classes that was like that.
Mm.
Dude did amazing work. However, he was lazy as fuck. So, and I'm not gonna say any names, but he he would come in with a project that we were supposed to do. This is the one that actually got me in particular because we were supposed to do this project in color. This nigga printed this shit out at Kinko's like I don't know 5 or 10 minutes before class. Was late to class, but comes in with like the most gratuitous excuse that I've ever heard in my life. One, he sold it. Two, it made sense, and
Oh my
three,
God.
he got an A on it, and
Oh
it was
my
kind of
God.
it was a little frustrating. I talked to my professor after this, but he didn't give him the A because he thought the work was bad. He gave him the A because he checked literally all of the fucking boxes. My teacher was also extremely I could see it in his face. He didn't come out and say it, but he was extremely disappointed with him because imagine if this kid had actually like sat down, did the work, not
Yeah.
before class, printed it out at a nice place. It would have been fucking immaculate. He that everybody's like singing my praises in that class because I can draw and graphic design is not really my thing, but I can definitely arrange things. I can make sure that spaces in between stuff are doing what they're supposed to do and things like that.
Yeah.
But he would have been better than me had he just put in the time to do it. And that shit made me sad.
Yeah.
Just like,
That's
damn,
very
dude.
common. Like it's a lot of it's hard to have an art teacher that can be very object or yeah, I guess like objective on critiques rather than just feeding kids bullshit,
Mhm.
which is very common in art schools. It's like just go by how you feel. It's like, oh, everything's amazing and you can do no wrong. And like people are just like stroking their own ego and just creating things and not realizing like if you just put in a little bit more discipline into this, you'll go really far.
Yeah,
Um,
I think unfortunately it happens more often in graphic design rather than like illustration because illustration is hard.
yeah,
I've seen the graphic design kids struggle in that shit because they can't draw worth a damn. Um,
yeah. And you got to communicate. It's like every element is communicating something.
yeah, they're
Crazy.
good at that part, but they're not good at the execution bit, which I think is interesting.
Mm.
Because like you know, Illustrator will make the lines and things for you, but that don't mean the person behind the computer can actually make the lines themselves.
Yeah,
Right? So that was an eye opening experience for a lot of graphic design kids.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what? I can't draw. I can't express myself. What is this? What do you mean I can't use a computer? You're like, welcome to the club, sucker.
You tell me that I can't just pick up a rock from outside and then just put it on my paper and call it done? What do you mean? Um, like now we did after was it during Fullerton we did Comic Con?
Yeah,
Okay, it was during
yeah,
Fullerton.
yeah. I was
So
busting my
how,
ass for everything.
how that whole experience, like what was your favorite thing about tabling at Comic Con?
I said it before and I'll say it again. I love talking to people. But also it was just I think my favorite part was actually that first sale. I'll probably never forget that shit. I'll never forget the look on that guy's face too. Um, I've forgotten his face, but he was looking at me like, well, yeah, man. I handed you money. Like, I want the print. I was like, you sure you want the print, bro? You don't have to spend your money here, bro. Like, this is kind of a trap. And he's like, but but I want the print. I like the print. Give me the
You're-
print.
it's that thing where as artists we really undervalue what it is that we're doing. Like I don't know if it's imposter syndrome. It's not that. It's just we think, oh yeah, that it's totally what it is. It's like, oh, I'm not deserving of your $10
Yeah, it's
for
like
my
you
print. It's like,
you shouldn't be
okay,
getting
what?
money for a thing that you do like on the side all day, every day for absolutely no reason. And people are just like, yo, I fucking love that. I want to hang that shit up on my wall. And you're like,
Yeah,
the fuck?
yeah. What was like the because I'm sure because I definitely had an eye-opening experience doing like tabling with you. What was yours in terms of perspective? Like you tabling, you have your own booth, you're selling your stuff. Like what was it that you kind of took from that that made you go, wow, or the lack thereof?
You know what I think is probably like that moment for me. It was actually when we met Jet, um,
Shout
because
out to the
that
home, shout out to Jet Senpai.
the
Uh,
senpai in the sky.
yeah,
But it's because like we probably could have been like anywhere else on that floor, and I don't think that we would have had that kind of connection that we did. But we were like right across from him, right?
yeah,
And he's like, "Man, you guys' work is dope," and we're like, "Wait, what?" Because we're looking at his shit, and he is like painting his ass off. Like
yeah.
if it wasn't anime girls, this man would probably be like the next Hung Tae Kim, actually. Like just straight up. Like if he decided to do his own line of girls wearing weird shit, he would sell like crazy.
Dude,
But
Jet was
every
yeah, he was going off. He's so legendary. His artwork is so dope. But yeah, go ahead.
but him coming over and just being the homie,
Yeah,
because he really didn't have to. He like went out of his way to
he
be
really did.
that kind to us, especially after you mentioned that like it was like our first time or whatever. And he was like, "Your first time? Y'all look like your first timers? What y'all doing over there?" And then
Yeah.
when he came over, I was like, "Yo, bro, I'm doing $5 commissions." He was like, "Yo, what the fuck?"
Yeah.
And that was like the theme of that day because before that, Roz and Alistair came over and they're like, "You doing $5? Don't do that.
Oh, dude,
Don't do that."
I talked to Ross, and he's still roasting you, man. Like I chat with him over the phone, and he's still like, "Yo, so like I'm gonna hit up Josh for that $5 commission." I'm
Yeah,
like,
no, he's literally never gonna let me down. I love that man for that. But
yeah,
like Jack coming over and be like, "Yo, that's like $200 right there. $200 worth of work. Like, what are you doing selling that for $5? Don't do that.
yeah,
Nah, don't raise your prices. What's going on?"
yeah. He gave us like big perspective on what you can get out of your work, and it's not about like at the end of the day, it's not about like, oh, we just need money. I mean, we all want the money, but it's more just how we come into it valuing ourselves. Like we think like, this isn't that good enough, and we're unsure, we're not in our element. Like it was so uncomfortable, but then meeting Jet was like he's another dude who's doing what he loves and he's making a living off of it, and he's just so supportive and kind. And that to me also was like, oh my God, this shit is awesome, dude. Like people here are all here to support each other. No one's trying to attack anybody. We're all fucking nerds and just doing what we do. And that was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because he was just being that guy, being real nice and helping the newbies out.
Yeah.
And that will probably stick with me for the rest of my life because I as much as I try to be nice to everybody and stuff like that, like a lot of times you just not that shit don't get reciprocated. Like people
Yeah.
be like people be like karma's a bitch, but the truth is when you be kind to everybody and stuff like that, you don't actually receive that shit back a lot of the
Yeah.
time in any way that feels like tangible. Like
Mm,
maybe all the good karma was for fucking Jet Senpai because it was pure fucking luck that we were right across the way from him. But
yeah.
it's like the same thing with like James and I want to say Richard. Is it Richard
Oh,
and
Ethan.
Ethan?
Ethan? Oh, you're talking about okay, so James
Bandage,
and
Bandage Brigade.
yeah, yeah, Richard and Julie.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Richard and Julie, like they were
Shout out to
right
the
next
homies.
to us.
Yeah.
Like, we out here giving shout outs to when we were first timers, right?
Shit. Yeah.
Like it was dope. Like legitimately, like if I had to say anything, like if me and Morris's good karma got mashed together and that's what we got, like I'm
Yeah.
really happy that that's what we got
Yeah.
because we ended up meeting a bunch of people who basically sort of supported us like the entire way through. Like
Yeah.
like those people didn't have to be as nice as they are. Like anytime we see each other like at a con, we go out of our way to say, "Hey,
Yep.
how is everything?"
Yep.
Um, and it really didn't have to be that way. Like, you could be like, nah, I ain't talking to these niggas. But
Yeah.
but you really like at the end of the day, you kind of do want to talk to everybody. Like, hey, what's going on? Like
Yeah,
even
you go into it very nervous.
like
like
I'm even thankful that we met Eric, and that guy don't talk a
yeah.
whole lot. He kind of quiet.
Yeah, he's that cool anime kid.
Yeah, not
He's
dog. Have you
he's literally that like
have you seen
he's
his
an
Instagram?
anime character.
Have you seen his Instagram? That dude
Yeah.
is too cool.
He looks like he's from Persona, like the main protagonist of like Persona 6 or something.
He's
And
too
like
damn cool. It's kind
when
of
he
annoying.
walks with his hands in his pockets and he just glides and he just has like a harem just behind him, just following him, and he just ignores him, just like I don't even know what's going on. I'm just minding my own business.
Yeah, he's like, yo,
What
I
the fuck?
collect anime figurines. What are y'all doing following me?
Yeah, he was very nice too. Like came to us and was like, "How you guys doing?" We're like, it's kind of going a little slow." He's like, "It's like that these days. Don't worry, it'll pick up." It was like, thank you."
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that was
that
like
was
one of the biggest thing for me was seeing that and seeing people doing their own shit and making a living off of it
mhm.
better than a full-time job working for anybody. Like Julie and Richard, they own a company called Bandage Brigade. And they when they first started, we met them at Comic Con and they were just selling like prints and some apparel, but they didn't really kick off. And that was 2018. And then now it's like they've grown so big. They're like a full-blown,
Yeah,
crazy big
yeah,
business.
yeah.
And
They
creating original artwork and doing everything, doing the screen printing. It's like, holy shit, this is so inspirational.
you damn near can't buy anything from them motherfuckers. Like, I think that is so cool because I saw something that they were like reprinting or something crazy like that, right? Because it
Yeah,
was so popular, like it sold out. It was a jean jacket too. I already have a jean jacket. So I'm like, the fuck, I need another one for. But I was
yeah,
like, yo, if I got this would be sick, right? So
yeah.
I'm like looking at the thing. I just happened to pass by, and I'm like, oh, so it's only been posted like 30 minutes ago. That shit was sold out. Like I'm like, hey, yo, y'all still got the goods, and they're like, yo, we just sold out. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, that was incredible. Like just to see their growth like that makes me go, "Oh my God." So I don't have to work for a paycheck. I can just create something that I'm really passionate about and work really hard at it and like be self-sufficient, creating my own shit and people will vibe with me. Like, "Yo, this makes sense."
But I always feel like every time that we go to one of those, I literally walk away feeling like, yeah, no, I can make this shit. Let's go out here and get this bread, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a thing that I was worried about the most in the beginning. Like initially when we signed up, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I don't make money? But then immediately I thought, you know what? Fuck it. If I say that to myself, I'm going to have a miserable time at the con. So instead, I'm just going to go in without just assuming I'm not going to make any sales and I just want to go there and just hang out with people. Just people who are doing their own thing, just fun and interesting people and just make friends. And that's exactly what we did. And I had so much fun. And on top of that, like seeing people come to your booth and they buy your product, like you said, you're like, wait, you really want to buy this? They're like, yeah, I really want to buy this. You're like, holy shit, okay.
You sure, man?
Thank
I don't
you.
have to take that 20. You can just hang out.
Yeah, thank you. It was dope. It was really, really cool. And so that's the mentality that I always try to have with you when we go tabling is let's not worry about if we make any sales and instead like we can worry about that after. Like after the con, we can take a look back and see what stocks didn't sell, if the convention was good, what we can leave out. But in
Mhm.
general, at the convention, like just go there to have fun.
Yeah, you say that all that Marvel should be selling. I'd be like, whoo, show this up. That fan
Dude,
art is crazy.
you're like the 90s stuff, the Mega Mans, the Vampire Hunter stuff, and you got the we vibe because we got that 90s aesthetic and people like they like they relate. That was cool.
They're like, yo, I haven't seen that shit in forever. You like that too?
Yeah,
We're like, yeah, bro.
yeah. Tenchi Muyo.
And
Um,
Tetsumoyo and the Kamen Rider.
yes. Yeah, but um, oh man. Okay, so it's been an hour. I would like to talk more, but we will talk again next time. For now, hold up. I wanted to ask you, Josh, a few thingamajigs.
All right. I'm ready.
Um, do you prefer traditional drawing or digital drawing?
So drawing and not painting. Drawing, I can't. You can't get me away from the pencil and a piece of paper. Like I'll be cleaning up my room, and I'll be like, "Ooh, I didn't know I found. I know I had this clipboard here," or "Ooh, I didn't know I had this sketchbook here." And I will go out of my way to find a pencil because usually, here's the thing. I don't know why this happens, but whenever there's like a loose sketchbook somewhere, there is usually a pencil nearby.
Mm,
So I'll be like, I'll just draw a little bit, and I'm stuck there for like the next 45 minutes instead of cleaning my room like I should be.
I see, I see.
Oh, I love that shit, but I love digital for being able to paint and things
Yeah.
like that. Like it, because I know you know this, but setting up paints is an absolute pain in the ass.
Shit. It's a pain. That's why it's called painting,
Painting,
because it's
you can't
pain
have painting without paint.
without paint. Um, what inspires you to not just make art, but to be a better artist?
Uh, I really do think that is some Dragon Ball type shit. Like, I started this when I was a kid. I was like, I'm gonna be the best I can be.
Yeah.
But it didn't start off with that because when I was a kid, I had a fucking ego. So I was like, yo, I'm gonna be the very best artist ever. Right? So you're like, all right, kid. And then the internet happened and I got knocked down a peg real quick.
Yeah.
So now it's just, I want to be the best artist that I can be. So whenever I do stuff, I usually try to do it um like better than I did yesterday kind of thing. Like it's that kind of mentality. Like I
Right.
so much so that like I go back and I actually fix my own drawings or I'll revisit ideas and I'll do them over again.
Yeah.
A lot of the time that stuff is really just for me, but you can probably see that now. Like I have one print that I actually sold at Long Beach, I think, and I redid that and I redid that whole character. Well,
Yeah.
nobody pays me for this. I just like doing it.
Yes. Well, to close this out, what would be your, I guess, your artist plans in the next 2 years? Like, what are you working on going forward from now? What are you trying to build for yourself in terms of art?
That's a good question because I really don't. Honestly, I really don't know because I've been trying to gear myself towards working in a studio environment, and I think that would actually be like a whole lot better for me, like as a person, for different reasons as I said last time. Well, and then one of them is still stability. Like I actually do want to have like a sort of steady-ish job. I mean, I could probably do that freelancing, but that's a lot of work
Yeah.
to literally start from nowhere.
You did because you just released your book. Oh, by the way, people, the book is called Spare Time, made by Mr. Jackson. Link will be in the description. Buy it. And after you released that book, did you want to make something else after that?
After I made that book, I kind of wanted to put together a bigger book. So I was like, damn, 32 pages ain't shit, right? But
Yeah.
that book is like still chock full of stuff. Like it really ain't nothing to sneeze at. I ain't even front about that one.
Yeah.
Um,
I told you this before, but like to see your artwork come this far, how you make these illustrations now, like the biggest thing that stood out to me was that skeleton knight in that book. I was like, holy shit. I didn't even know this man was underwater.
it was supposed to be like a funny thing. Like what does a skeleton knight in armor do if he's fucking stuck in like a sea or something like that? Because it's like
Yeah.
he's got no meat, he's got no buoyancy, so he's not gonna float. That boy's sinking, right? So the whole thing was like, ah, shit. Um, but going forward in like the next 2 years, like I've been trying to work more towards working on like environments and stuff like that, so I can hopefully apply and be accepted as like an environment concept artist kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's not something that like I do regularly, so I actually have to like sit down and make an effort to come up with like these spaces and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
it's been a very different experience. Like I mean, I always understood that like the environment is its own character, but I don't look at environments like that. I don't look at environments how like I look at people, for example, right?
Right.
So I'm learning to apply how I approach characters to environments, which is not difficult. It's just I'm not used to thinking that way.
I see what
So
you mean.
so what happens is like I have to consider now, all right, am I going to tell a story with this beautiful vista, or is it simply just a beautiful vista? Um,
Mm.
because in concept art, you don't necessarily get to choose what sort of things that you're going to be doing.
Mm.
And 9 times out of 10, they do just have to look gorgeous. So you're kind of like trying to make a thing that looks gorgeous, but also sometimes tell a little bit of a story, which is
Yeah.
not something that I'm used to having to tell stories with like basically inanimate objects because I hate still lives.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like I avoided that shit because I like people. People are interesting, people change, people dress different, people dress,
Hmm.
right? Um so learn like not learning but rather reconfiguring how I approach stuff has just been it's been very interesting. It's also like kind of nice because I don't have to draw people.
Yeah.
So it's like a little bit of a mini break, but that doesn't make it any less difficult.
I see. I see. So would you say for your next book, you're going to be doing environments or more characters like your spare time book? By the way, spare time made by Mr. Jackson, Josh Jackson. Link will
Please
be in
buy
the description below.
please buy my book. Please. But I don't know. It might actually just turn into like a bit of a mix. Like there are environments in spare time. I think there's a tower, there's a weird ad for a
Yeah.
village that you probably wouldn't want to visit. Um there it's just one of those things where like I really don't know because that book was stuff that I was kind of doing just on the offhand kind of stuff. So who knows? It might turn out that we get a bunch of environments and like a few characters here and there who are supposed to like fit into those environments. But honestly, like the next book is probably just gonna be like a collection of stuff from probably this year. Because this year's
Shit.
definitely gonna be weird. Like
Yeah.
I get that feeling because everything hasn't sort of returned to normal, but we're trying to act like it's returning to normal.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that this year is going to be very, very strange for a number of reasons. Also, if I'm not mistaken, I think we have a presidential election coming up too. So
Uh-huh.
we gonna see some shit,
Yeah.
and I think that's probably going to end up being reflected in the book. If not, then always pretty ladies.
Hmm. Would would you expand spare time? Would it be like spare time part two, or like
Uh,
how did you even come up with that? Like what was the whole idea behind like even the name spare time? Because I like the name a lot. It's like
so
spare change.
I was thinking of something that I could also turn into a visual pun kind of thing. Like I thought of names, but I was like, man, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing with my life? And when do I draw? Like, I usually tend to draw when I have a lot of like not spare time, but it's like time that I have to waste in between things. Because
Mhm.
like I said, even when I was going to SMC and Cal State Fullerton, there was a lot of downtime in between like classes and things like that. And
Oh,
in general, like my life has sort of been shaped like that because I have
right.
to commute everywhere. So there's just a lot of time to like think about stuff or like, be productive but not productive, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
when you're in the
So
car,
okay,
when
okay.
yeah, like when you're in the car commuting, for example, like I would spend a whole lot of time like ruminating over ideas for like classwork or illustrations and stuff. But I can't actually draw that stuff because I'm driving a car. So I have to make the best use out of my time,
Yeah.
and I'm used to having to do that. So being in a pandemic is kind of weird because I have all this fucking free time, and I'm like, what do? I could be doing this, I could be doing that, and I'm like stuck in paralysis.
Yeah.
Because I'm extremely used to not having
S-
like,
So the next book will be called Free Time.
yo, that would be great. But I was thinking like maybe I just make a whole like series of books with like just weird titles like that,
Yeah.
like like weird sayings or
Yeah.
just sayings in general. It's like, oh man, you got some spare time because really you don't. Like,
Yeah.
we all got like 24 hours in the day, but like, you're gonna die eventually, and you don't like you really don't have any spare time. Like
That is true.
the time that you are here on this earth, like you just really should not be taking it for granted because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Not to be like morbid or anything,
No, it's true.
not to be like, oh man, you could turn around and die. Not like that. But what I do mean is like, you really don't realize what you could be doing with like the hours of your day if you
Yeah.
spend most of your time like on your phone, for example.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm so guilty of that. Like, I'll be on TikTok for 30 minutes. I'm like, oh my God, or like an hour sometimes. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
But
So that
yeah,
that was the meaning behind the book. Like, because when I was thinking, I was like, damn, what do I call this? Like, most of these were done like kind of in my free time and stuff like that. Like, when I should have been doing other things. Like, do I have any spare time? Spare time. I think the title is Spare Time. Spare Time sounds kind of cool. I'm gonna go with Spare Time.
I think it's a solid name. Next book will be called Free Time, and then the book after that will be called Lots of Time. And then after that will be called Ample Infinite Time. Infinite space. Yeah.
The kind of funny and sort of messed up thing, and this is like a nice little tidbit behind like the back cover, because I know you've seen it. It's like all black and like it looks like there's a
Mm-hmm.
timepiece in the center,
Mm-hmm.
but the printing is too dark, so you can't
Mm.
see it. Unfortunately, like you can kind of see like the bottom, so it just looks like this bottomless abyss with like a little bit of light, but not really. Like it doesn't look like anything. It looks like I just painted the entire thing black. It's not black.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fucking dark. And when it printed out, I'm like, okay, well, I brightened this as much as I could. It shouldn't be that dark. I got back like the entire set of books. That shit was still dark as fuck.
Yeah. I realized when we first printed stuff, like things come out a lot darker because our
Mhm.
computer screens are so bright. And in printing, they have to really get the inks in the paper, so they use a darker tone. And yeah, we learned that right away. Like, oh shit, we got to line up all of our pieces.
So unfortunately, that page is dark as hell. But it's like this. Like if you ever have a need to purchase the digital version, you can see what was intended. And what was intended, I think, was actually kind of cool. It's kind of like this eye peering out from the abyss, and then
Yeah.
where the time mark is, it actually makes like a clock kind of thing. And I was like, oh man, look
Oh.
at me out here being clever with this shit.
Oh. The abyss represents the inevitable doom that we all have against time staring back at us.
You're not wrong. That's kind of where I was going with that. Like I
Oh
needed
shit.
something to be like really dark in this book because the rest of the book is extremely lighthearted. It's a nice book. If I do say like I'm
Yeah.
not here to be toot my own horn, but like that I look at that book
Look
and
that shit. Yeah.
I'd be like, damn, I did this.
Yeah. Yeah, it was solid, man. I was so hyped for you when you finished that. I was like, "Oh, bro, when's it dropping?" Um, yeah. Okay, okay. Well, Josh, you have any closing statements?
Uh, wish all my homies a good day, a good night. Uh,
Yes.
don't get lost in the sauce. You ain't got no maidens, bro. We all maidenless out here.
Yeah, you got to be the sauce and you got to be the maiden. No. Um, so Josh, where can people find your work?
You can find me on Instagram. I am Mr. Jackson, Misterjackson. We skipped the A because there's a white dude out in the Netherlands who has the whole thing. I do not think that he is a Mr. Jackson, so I'm like, why are you calling yourself that? But it's
Yeah,
whatever. It's chill. It's nothing but love. I follow him.
that's
I don't
hilarious.
I don't know if he thinks that it's as funny as I think that it's funny.
It's so funny because he's like a Norse Viking guy, probably with yes, I am Jackson My last name is Jackson. When your last name should be like Bjorn or something.
Like again, I don't know if he thinks it's funny because he didn't follow me back, but that ain't nothing but love. But that's that's why that's like that. You can also find me on my blog slash website because that's a little bit easier to remember. It is a certain mrjackson.com. If you type that into Google, it'll probably bring you there, but there's a www in front of that. And it's ACERTAINMISTERJACKSON, and that is because we spell shit out in this house. So you got to.
Mm. You talk about RESPECT. Boom, boom, boom. That's the household, man. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Yo,
that
niggas,
and
you know when you're in a serious argument with like a black person, they be clapping, they be
yo
like,
yo is
"You don't know the fuck you talking about, bitch." Yeah.
and then they start spelling, then you hit the syllables, and this
Yo.
you don't know what you is talking about. It's exactly like that, and that's how you know you done lost the argument. That person's no longer listening to you because they've lost it. They've lost their patience with you.
Yep. And also, I'm gonna put all of Josh's information in the description. His phone number, credit card, social security, name, birthplace, birth certificate, all that, so you guys can follow him
If you
and
want to beat
steal
me,
his identity.
if you want to beat me,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
because
think you
there's
want.
already somebody in the Netherlands doing it, so might as well.
I don't think you want that though. I got like 10K in debt.
It'll be gone soon. All right, brother. It was good talking to you. And we'll see you, everybody, on the next podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to the Wild African Dogs podcast. I think we're just going to call ourselves African Dogs. Just keep it
Oh,
short, maybe.
that wild too much. You know, they might think
AfriKan.
we wilding out.
Wild, passive African dogs. Call it, call it crazy African dogs.
Yo, you ever think about that? Like, what if they think that we too aggressive because we some wild
Yo,
African
we
dogs? Be like,
wild.
yo, we don't want them in here. We don't know what they're gonna do. They call themselves the wild African dogs.
We trifling African dogs. We on some other shit African dogs. But all right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'ma see y'all and wouldn't wanna be y'all. Bye.
Peace.
Shit. All right, I'm gonna kick Craig out. Craig bot, you can leave.